Hello and welcome to Cage Fighting. It's your main man, Andy Gillard here. Hope everyone is keeping well in the world right now.
Hello, everyone. Good summer so far. Yes. Second, obviously, so Matthew's not here again. So who is in his place, do you wonder? Well, unless Andy's ruined it all and put it in the description. Who is the third chair? Is it?
And we are here with Mr. Ash Dolan. Ash, how are you doing this evening, morning, whatever time the people are listening to the podcast?
Hi guys. I'm not doing too bad. I'm currently in the middle of playing the new Pokemon game, Pokemon Sleep, where they've somehow managed to monetize sleep. It's a fantastic game.
You're going to have to go into a bit more detail on that, Ash, because I am completely lost. I just about know what a Pokemon is, so...
So basically, the entire premise of the game is the more you sleep, the better Pokemon you find, and the better sort of things you get. You get more berries, you get all those sort of things. You can level up Pokemon a bit better, and basically it's all based around sleep. So it's a fantastic game for people who like their sleep.
Is this a mobile app, is it, rather than like a Switch game, I'm guessing?
Yeah. But for the paltry sum of about either £45 or £50, you can get the Pokemon Go Plus, which is a little button which you press, and then Pikachu sings a lullaby to you, and it retracts your sleep for you.
And for the audio listeners, Ash just showed us that he spent the £45-50.
Worth every penny.
I'm not going to mock, because I've bought so much Turtles merchandise since the film's been out that I can't take the piss. It's just not. It wouldn't be appropriate.
Well, I did just spend the day yesterday in London playing Pokemon Go in absolute typhoon weather, and then drove back in one day while driving past the Chelsea Stadium while that whatever friendly game was when that just finished. So. Yeah, I can't really.
Oh dear.
It's a different level. And then I'm going to New York to play Pokemon in a couple of weeks as well.
Wonderful. I mean, there'll be none of that when we go down to London at the end of the month, I'm telling you now. Have you seen anything good at the cinemas lately, Ash?
What was the last? Well, apart from the big two, we haven't not been since. We've just been watching new things at home. Got Good Omens 2 on at the moment. Heal Season 2, and steadily ploughing through Dark Side of the Ring after we just finished Silo.
Excellent. Yes. Yeah, I mean, we're big fans of Silo on this here pod. I haven't started Heal Season 2 because I think that's second episode was out this week. Is that right?
Yes.
I think, yeah. And Good Omens, I really enjoyed the first season. I'm kind of surprised they bothered with the sequel. Is it worthy of coming back, do you think?
It's all right. It's much of the same. If you like Tennant and Sheen together, it's just them two really. They've got good chemistry together. Then you've got obviously John Hamm. We've just done an episode where Peter Davison and Ty Tennant are in the same episode. So it's just like David Tennant's just taking over, which we're all here for, really.
Yeah, can't really complain about that, can we?
No.
Stu, have you seen anything good in the last couple of weeks since we last recorded? Anything worthy of mention?
Well, it's always worthy of mention. It's not new, though. I mean, it's probably a couple of months now, but Season 7 of Queer Eye, just wonderful stuff. It kind of blends into... We could have all of them in every answer of this here episode, because heartwarming TV is what Queer Eye is. It's just great. And... I deliberately left it this time because I think it was on the last season or the season before that. It came at the week before I went to Whitby, so it's been like one of them traditions there. Well, I'll watch it there because the tellies are bound to not be very good or very big, so it's no point watching anything real proper. So I'll wait until I get there and watch it there, and it seems to kind of fit. When you're sitting there and it's sunny outside and you just preparing to get into the beach, watch a Queer Eye or watch it just before you go to bed. Just wonderful things. The other one was now Hijack's finished. Really enjoyed it. Very good.
That's the Idris Elba Apple TV show.
Yeah. 7 episodes. Very good. very weird. As usual with the Apple TV stuff, very well made. CG, maybe, but we're not talking about season 2 of Lost 24. That kind of playing level. We're not that bad, but it does what it has to do, I suppose, for the playing bits in the last episode. But overall, I really enjoyed it for what it was. How they can stretch it 7 hours in real time in a hijacked plane, but it works. So yeah, very well done to them. Again, shame that it's stranded on Apple TV Plus where no one can get it, but that is the world, I suppose.
Whenever they did the boardroom scenes, are you as immature as me? And whenever he showed up, did you keep going, "Oh, Neil," whenever Neil's dad was on the TV?
I saw Joyride, which is the film with 2 young Chinese. I can't remember if they're Chinese or Japanese now. One's an adopted daughter. She was adopted by white Americans. The other one was of the culture, and then they go back to the homeland years later. And the trailers all look really good and really funny, and it's so much better than the trailers make it out to be.
Oh wow!
Proper sort of Bridesmaids level humour. I didn't expect it to be gross out silliness, but like the tattooed vagina and stuff like that really got me fucking laughing at it. It was superb. I thoroughly recommend it. I was hooked anyway with the trailer. I thought I'm going to see it, and it's one of those rare cases where a comedic trailer doesn't do the film justice because there's just so much more to the movie. So I thoroughly recommend that one. And of course, the other film, which I've already mentioned, is The Turtles, which I've seen twice this week. And I might go again at some point in the coming week. But it's not very often I feel so invested that I want to make sure a film gets a sequel. But I think if I keep going, maybe we'll get a sequel. And it does end that there is that possibility. So fingers crossed. But yeah, it was excellent. Proper, even though it's obviously an animated film, the jokes weren't. Because I often find with animated films, they'll have jokes that are aimed specifically at kids and jokes that are aimed specifically at grown-ups. This one doesn't. This is just good, funny humour that absolutely everybody can take from. And it's a real feather in Seth Rogen's cap that he's able to do that. So it's tremendous. And I'm really looking forward to hearing your reviews of it as well when you go and see it. Especially as you said the other day, Stu, like your lad doesn't know the Turtles, so I'm intrigued to see how somebody with fresh eyes comes to it. So I look forward to hearing that.
I tried to get him into the original cartoon, and obviously that's never going to happen with the kids of today. But I think he might have. He didn't go with me, but he probably was around when I watched the Michael Bay ones at home. But obviously didn't pay much attention, like a lot of people didn't. So yeah, I mean, I asked him about it, and I said Turtles, and he was like, "What?" Went TMNT, and went, "Oh, okay. Oh, it's probably in Fortnite. That's probably where he knows it from." Like everything, the bastard thing is, like we saw a lot because there was when we was in Whitby, there was a Lotus Owners Club meeting on the pier, so you had all these like proper like supercars all the way from start to finish, and there was an Esprit at the front, a white Esprit. And he said, "Oh, that turns into a submarine." I went, "Does it really? Where was that from?" And he went, "Oh yeah, I saw it on Rocket League." And now no. But at least they know what these things are, but they just don't know where they come from. But yeah, it's so he agreed to go to Turtles. I think he's very excited to go to Turtles, but we'll see with these fresh eyes what he thinks of it next week.
You can get a Wolves Rocket League skin.
I know, I've got it. Yeah. I've got the Asphalt 9 one or Asphalt, whichever one Asphalt it is. I've got that as well, even though I've never played it.
To be fair, I have actually played Rocket League. It's one of the few sort of fad games that I got into. I generally don't bother with those kind of things, but I did with that. I think it was like really dirt cheap on the Switch, so I thought I'd give it a go. Something to do. It's all right.
It was a Plus game when it launched years ago. So
yes, I think it was, but I think I'd missed it. I don't think I was ever paying that much attention, and yeah.
So I played it on using remote play on PS4 on my Vita when I was in I was up in Whitby that year. So whenever that was, I played it with him on remote play, and it worked back then. So you're talking like at least 2016, 17 time, and it was perfect. There was no lag at all.
It's interesting how the Vita seems to be so much better than anything they've done since when it comes to handheld streaming kind of things. Like they've never really been able to run with it, have they? That seems to be the pinnacle of PlayStation when it comes to that type of game. Very odd.
It's here. It's in the drawer. It's great.
Yeah, I think that they need to pull the thumbs out and do something because they've struggled a little bit there. But we can save that for a episode of GamesCast. I think we can do portable playing. I think will be the one. Anyway, onto this episode because it's the 65th QuestionCast. It's time for a top fives, as you've probably figured out by the title on the episode. It is the top 5 heartwarming films. So it's films that make you go ah. We'll go around the table 5 to 2, and then we'll give a few honourable mentions if the fellas have got any, and then give out our number 1 most heartwarming film of all time. I'll go first, then Stuart, and then Ash. So my number 5, if I get my notes up, because I've been too busy talking that I've come off them. Right, number 5 is a film called Lars and the Real Girl. I love Mr. Gosling. I think he's an absolutely tremendous actor, and he's so good in this film. This may even have been the first film I saw with Ryan Gosling in. And someone so handsome shouldn't be as socially inept as his character is in this movie, to the extent that he struggles to meet women, which, much like the joke in the Barbie film about you shouldn't say that when you've got Margot Robbie playing Barbie. You shouldn't have that when you've got Ryan Gosling playing Lars. But he just is unable to communicate with other people. He ends up living in his brother and sister-in-law's basement. And eventually he meets a girl who is the real girl in the title, except for she's basically a sex doll. She's an inflatable sex doll that he treats as though she's real. And the whole town at first sort of give side eyes towards him and think, okay, this is a bit weird. But as he starts to come out of his shell, they really embrace this sex doll is actually a real girl. They treat her as though she's one of their own, going for pedicures and stuff with her. And it helps him become a more rounded human being, so to speak. And it's one of the sweetest films I've ever seen, to the point where when the doll starts to fall ill, I heard a woman in the cinema cry because this doll has contracted cancer or some kind of really bad illness. That's how much they managed to get people loving the characters in this film, even inanimate objects. It was just beautiful. It was so well done. And it sort of elevated Gosling as not just this gorgeous man who should be the lead of every film. He's actually an actor who can do your smaller indie films and carry them as well. He's the kind of actor who I think has got a bit of everything about him, and he's tremendous in that film. So that's my number 5, Lars and the Real Girl.
It sounds like a Channel 4 documentary.
It sort of does, doesn't it? You wouldn't be surprised to learn that I saw it at the Lighthouse, because it is very much...
Of course.
Yeah, it's a proper indie film. It was made for peanuts, and yeah, it very much fits in there. So I'm guessing neither of you two have seen that film.
No, I've never heard of it before.
Put it on your list. It's brilliant. I think I still own the DVD. It's, well worth a watch. It was on Netflix a couple of 3 months back, I think, so it may even still be available on there.
I've just looked on IMDb, and it's got from Parks and Recreation. It's got the guy who played Mark Brendanovich.
Yeah, it's the only other thing I've seen him in, because he just doesn't seem to exist outside of Parks and Rec.
For the first time ever, I actually have got a notepad to write things down with. But
superb.
If there was a Channel 4 documentary about real dolls, I'm sure there was. It was either 4 or 5, where the guy, when he had a dinner party for him, and his wife was just looking at him, and it used to be on YouTube unless it's been taken down. But yeah, it was very curious. And that was the same thing. He used to take it for walks and things, and sit on the park benches with her and stuff.
It's incredible, isn't it? The kind of people that are out there in the real world. It's dangerous. Right, number 5 for you then, please, Stu.
Now, talking about the real world, I think this is possibly the first time I ever heard a Cockney accent of sort, and it's Mary Poppins, of course. And just, I mean, it used to be the thing, didn't it? It used to be on every Christmas for whatever reason, because it's the perfect family movie that no one can watch it and come away pissed off or miserable, even you, Andy. And it's it's just got a lot, and you could interchange this one with Bed Knobs and Broomsticks if you really wanted to, and Chitty Bang Bang, that whole kind of era of them. But I think Mary Poppins is the best of the three, and I've never seen the second one. I don't really want to either. I know it's supposed to be pretty good by some people's observations, but I think it was part of, like pretty much everything on, nearly everything on this list, it was a part of childhood. And as soon as you said it, other than the first one, which we'll come to later, obviously, I kept just going back to when you said heartfelt films that make you go, it was like, I can't, maybe it's the hard reality of adulthood that you can't think of any that are really in the last 20 years or so that jump off the page, which is kind of a spoiler, I suppose. But Mary Poppins is just a wonderful film. Even the animated part works perfectly still, which I'm amazed at, really, all these years later. And his accent, the Dick Van Dyke accent, in a way, has come full circle because you hear Cockney speaking, well, people from London speaking like him now, which is a travesty.
Yeah, I mean, like, was it 1964 it was released? And the fact that it is still being spoke about in glowing terms nearly 60 years later is incredible. It is such a wonderful film. And I really enjoyed the sequel. I understand why people wouldn't want to see it because it doesn't really need a sequel. But at the same time, it was really well made and Lin-Manuel Miranda's in it. So you sort of have to give it your time. So it is brilliant. And I do love... Julie Andrews, obviously, she's tremendous. I've never been a big fan of Sound of Music, but she's always great in everything she does. Like even the Princess Diaries, she was superb in that. So there is something so homely and welcoming about a Julie Andrews film. I think there's just something about her that she invites you into the movie. So, I get why she'd be on the list completely. Ash, any thoughts on that one?
I grew up watching it at Christmas and different times. It just gives you that warm feeling inside, doesn't it? Even when you get past Dick Van Dyke's dodgy accents. But no, you should watch the second one. It does hold up quite well, to be fair.
Okay.
Got some really good songs in it as well, actually. Yeah. They're a lot better than I sort of anticipated them to be. Ash, your number 5, please.
Okay. I'll start with 1988 Calgary, the Winter Olympics. Denise Sanka Jr. Yul Brennan. It's Cool Runnings. When you said it was heartwarming, you can't look past 4 guys coming out of their natural habitat, going to one of the coldest places on Earth to do a sport that they've never done before. I love Cool Runnings. It never fails to make you smile, whether it be the jokes or the general good feeling of the whole film. Add on John Candy, and then the part at the end. Not going to spoil it, but when everyone starts clapping, you can't help but have probably a little tear in your eye. No matter what the result was that they achieved. And I think that was a pure definition of what we were looking for here.
Yeah. Stu, I'm guessing that's high on your all-time favourites list. It just feels like a very Stu kind of film.
Yeah, well, remember when we talked about it at Christmas because I watched it last Christmas. So in the run-up to, because of obviously the snow factor. And I hadn't seen it for a long time. And I don't... kind of for that reason that I loved it so much and I didn't want to watch it again and it be shit. obviously that's never going to happen because it's amazing. And watching it with my older eyes, there was a lot of things that I didn't get first time round, or the second, or whatever, the last time I'd watched it. It just gets better with time. And yeah, obviously it's based on a true story. Not all of it's completely accurate, of course, but it doesn't matter. It's a really, really wonderful film. Yeah, I'm kind of ashamed that it's not on my list really now, but I'll still stick by everything that's on it. And again, a film from the 90s.
Yeah, absolutely. 1993. Yes, I'd been like about 10 years old when that was out, and it was right in the sweet spot. As a kid, I was a big John Candy fan. I think because I sort of associated him with Macaulay Culkin, and who was another actor who I really liked when I was younger. So Cool Runnings was like that. That was definitely on my long list of films when looking at this. I'm kind of surprised with the Rotten Tomatoes score. 76% from the critics and 81% from the audience. I wasn't sure if it would be the kind of film that translated across all ages, or if it'd just be for more millennial audiences like ourselves. So it's higher than I thought it was going to be, but I'm really pleased to see that because it does deserve its flowers. It's such a wonderful film. It's just that them all coming together to be greater than the sum of its parts, and it works so well. Yeah, really love Cool Runnings. Tremendous movie.
The fact that it's so memeable as well, and you see memes and gifs every single day.
Yeah, even now, Sanko, you dead man. That's still like, I don't know, it's at the forefront of your mind, isn't it? Whenever anything like that happens, I don't know why, but it absolutely is. Yeah, excellent. My number 4, I've gone. To be fair, I think I think 4 of the 5 films are a little bit indified when it comes to mine this time. It's a film called Brigsby Bear, and I'm guessing probably neither of you know of Brigsby Bear.
No.
But I reckon it'll be one that you both really enjoy. So it stars Mark Hamill. And the premise of the film is Mark Hamill plays a man who has a son and keeps him in this bunker, a bit like Silo almost, that he tells his son that he's not allowed to go up on top of the ground and look out because the world has been destroyed. And his son, in order to sort of try and keep his son sane, he shows him this TV show called Brigsby Bear on these old VHS tapes. And eventually we find out that the world hasn't been destroyed outside of their bunker, and that actually Mark Hamill had kidnapped this young boy and was keeping him hostage all this time. The kid then is now like a similar age to ourselves. He goes out into the real world, meets his real parents, and he feels like he's lost this part of his youth because Brigsby Bear wasn't a real show. It was just something who he thought was his dad made to show him. And it's about the acceptance of this guy who is new to this world. He goes to high school, even though he's in his 30s, and he meets teenagers, and these teenagers accept him and bring him into the fold. And it's all about how nostalgia is malleable almost. Like, it's not real nostalgia, but it's still something which is there. He then goes to make a film of Brigsby Bear, and it's about the acceptance of the world on him and how he grows to accept the world. And it is so sweet and it is so beautiful. And the confrontation between him and Mark Hamill when Mark Hamill's been arrested, and you don't hate him even though he's the villain, because at the same time he genuinely loves the main guy in it. And it's just beautiful. It was such a lovely film that barely anybody heard of. I think, again, it was in the cinema for a cup of coffee and went. But it should have had more eyes on it. It was a lovely film. So, yeah, Brigsby Bear is my number 4. And, again, I'd implore you both to give it a chance if you ever stumble across it.
It's there. It's on the pad.
Super.
So, going from the obscure to the obvious. Sister Act. Well, again, or weirdly enough, Sister Act 2 not shit either. But again,
yeah, absolutely.
Weirdly, I watched this one with my nan, of all people. It must have been on telly because I doubt it was in the cinema. But I remember watching it with her for the first time, and the premise of it really not that excited about it at that age. Well, that'd have been about 10, 11, 12, something like that when at the time I first saw it. thinking of what's this black women in America, or Christian, Catholic, all this stuff, and nuns. What's this got to do with anything about anything that I'm interested in? And then I watch it, and from about 15 minutes in, you can't help but not smile throughout the whole film. And again, like you're talking about that Brigsby Bear thing, about acceptance and knowing your place and all that stuff. Very similar vibes to Sister Act.
It really is, yeah.
Maybe there's the premise. We talked about the premise of the modern TV in that excellent Cage pilot from last week. Yes, weirdly, Sister Act is one of them as well that I wouldn't actually mind going to see the stage version of, because everyone who's seen it says it's excellent as well. And that doesn't really always translate. But yeah, just a story of someone who's kind of a bit of a wrong'un, finding acceptance and realising who they are. Everyone knows Sister Act. I don't need to go into it. It's just a wonderful, feel-good film that everyone's happy with.
It is interesting because, like, on paper, that sounds terrible, that film does.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound like the kind of film I would give a single shit about.
I had to double-check that it wasn't a 15 as well.
Yeah. If I remember rightly, wasn't it like proper borderline PG-15? Because I think it was pre. This might be one of the films that was Y12A was bought in, if I remember rightly, because it is quite mature for a PG, if I remember rightly. But yeah, for it to have then spawned a sequel and stuff, and like if that was released today, I don't think that film would have really got any eyes on it. But there is something about it where it does hold this place in my heart as something really sweet and wonderful. Ash, have you seen Sister Act?
I'm gonna say no. It's a little bit before my time, and it's not as iconic enough as say Cool Runnings for me. But I've always been told to watch it, and I've just never got round to it. So I really should.
Yeah.
I mean, I just had a look for a budget of 31 million, which is massive, really, considering the film it kind of is.
Yeah.
At the time, worldwide gross of $231 million.
Yeah, Whoopi Goldberg in the sort of early 90s was a massive star, and to an extent that I don't think we possibly understood how big, because of it being, we were obviously quite young and her being an American. But yeah, I think she was a big name, a bit like Eddie Murphy was back then as well, because I think they both came from a similar stand-up background, if I remember rightly. And you don't see a lot of Whoopi Goldberg anymore, which I think is a bit of a sad thing, because you're never seeing now in more morose roles, more than anything, more sort of reserved.
I think she's kind of done that to herself as well, being on the American version of Loose Women and some of her views.
Yeah, fair point. Fair point. That does make sense.
She was in the other season of Staged, wasn't she, for a few episodes with Tennant and what's his face?
Sheen,
yeah.
I've only seen was it the first season we watched?
Yes.
When you were around here. Yeah, that's the only one I've seen. I never got around to watching the second one. It's been on the Netflix list forever. I just never got around to it. Ash, your number 4, please.
I went from Calgary, and now I'm going to deepest, darkest Peru. It's only one.
Yeah.
I tossed and turned, and I feel like number 2 is probably coming up. So I'm going for number 1 here. It's Paddington. Mm-hmm. It's just marvelous. That little bear it's beautiful. The whole production of it, even down to the voice. The fact that Colin Firth pulled out so close to the it coming out, and I think that was a blessing in disguise, really, because the Paddington that we got in the end, it just fits perfectly. It's beautiful. Ben Whishaw, he was perfect as Paddington. Even down to having what's her face, being the taxidermist, Nicole Kidman being the taxidermist trying to get him, Peter Capaldi and the Assorted Stars being his neighbours, and the entire Brown family. Sally Hawkins as the mother is beautiful.
Yes, she's always great in every. She's another one a bit like a Julie Andrews, that she's always very inviting in whatever role she does.
Yeah.
But no, I completely agree, because I remember at the time when Colin Firth, when he pulled out of the role, I remember thinking, oh, that's such a shame, because I feel like his voice would have been perfect. But then when I saw the actual film and Ben Whishaw being there as the voice, there's an innocence to Ben Wishaw's voice that I don't think you'd have got with Colin Firth. So I think it works out a lot better the way that it went out in the end. So I'm really pleased with that. I left them off the film, off my list, because when I saw that you'd put Paddington, I assumed it was going to be covering both of them.
Oh.
So, I mean, the sequel is equally as good. The prison scenes and how he makes best friends with all these inmates. I love the scene where he introduces the inmates he's befriended to the Browns.
Yes.
When they all pop up in the window when he's doing the talk with them. And it's just so funny. And it's just really lovely how all these really rough and tumble inmates have all accepted this little marmalade-loving bear. It's ridiculous, but it's really sweet. And your man, Hugh Grant, is just superb as the villain. Like, I kind of like how Hugh Grant's changed from being the bumbling every Brit to being the bastard in quite a few films. And it works perfectly because he's just completely subverting your knowledge of the man. So it works great. Really love both of those movies.
Until he's a CGI Oompa Loompa.
That could go either way, couldn't it? Yeah. Stu, Paddington films?
Yeah, same. I thought that you put Paddington 2 as your number one. That's why I left. Paddington 2 is one of the best films of all time ever. It just is. I don't. The first one's fine. I enjoyed the first one, but I wouldn't have put it on here. But again, I didn't put Paddington 2 on because I thought Indie Andy had put it on his number one. So that's the only reason it's not in my list. Obviously, it's in my mentions, but yeah, they're just wonderful. And the fact that it got such an intention at both the Jubilee and what happened after with their death as well. The fact that it's got that kind of mainstream. Well, it was obviously mainstream before, but the CG film character version of Paddington has gone way beyond what anyone could have expected. You kind of think, oh, that's not going to happen with Puss in Boots, but it could. But he just went, will he? Because it's not Paddington.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's not the same.
I think lightning in a bottle, kind of right place, right time. It just works. Everyone loves Paddington too.
We were in London not long after the death. Not. We didn't go down there for it or anything like that. We were down there for
to finish her off.
Yeah, well, yeah. To nick the corgis, but we went to the park and just seeing the amount of the bears was just ridiculous. There were just so many Paddington bears. It was amazing. But I want it on record. If it's not on your list, I'm having Paddington 2 on there as well. Then
that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, you can have them both on this one.
yeah. That's what I assumed. It was like a 2-for-1. So yeah,
fair enough.
Yeah. Who makes Paddington? It's not Hasbro, is it?
Don't think so.
No.
Is it a British cut? I'm just wondering who, because whoever it did, like, they must be coining it when the Queen died. Because people must have been buying that bed just to leave, and then probably buying a second one just to keep. So yeah, they've. I bet they've done well out of her popping her clogs.
Who? It says Studio Canal, but that's not.
That's the film. That's who made the film.
That's the film,
yeah.
Isn't it? Who makes Paddington Bear?
First Paddington Bear stuffed toy to be manufactured was created in 1972 by Gabriel Designs, small business.
Mm-hmm. I did see one in New York, in FAO Schwartz. They had a Stife version of Paddington, and it was worth like thousands of dollars. It was tiny, but it was incredible.
Huh. That Gabriel Designs, a small family business run by Shirley and Eddie Clarkson, with the prototype made as a Christmas present for their children, Joanna and Jeremy Clarkson, a now well-known British TV presenter.
No way.
Astounding.
That is incredible. Mental. Right, I think this is the last of my indie films on this list. It's a film called Sing Street, which is an Irish independent film.
I've heard of Sing Street.
Yeah, and because it's an Irish independent film, it's got Baylor in from Game of Thrones.
Of course it does.
Yeah, Littlefinger's got to be in it if it's an Irish independent film. That's just the rules, I'm afraid. So this is a film. It's about a group of kids. There's one kid in particular who's the lead of the movie. His parents get divorced, and as part of the divorce, they can no longer afford to send him to this posh school. So he ends up going to a state comprehensive school, which I think, because it's in Ireland, it's a Catholic school. Whilst he's there, he wants to start a band and befriends these other lads. And again, it's about the acceptance of this kid whilst facing bullies, mostly the bullies, which are the priests trying to tell him what he can and can't wear and what have you. And he falls in love with a girl, and this girl who's been let down by her ex-boyfriends, who's had a bit of a miserable upbringing by having a shit father. And it's just how tough life was in the 80s for these kids. And they get together, and their love of music sort of pulls them all through together. It's got one of the best soundtracks for any musical that I've ever heard. And it's not even a proper musical. It's a musical in that they happen to be in a band, so that's where the music comes from. It's not like they just break out in song randomly like your standard musical. The ending is really sweet and leaves you with a lot of hope. I feel like a lot of Irish independent films leave you feeling like the world's going to turn to shit any second now.
Well,
yeah. Obviously, the Troubles tend to play a big role in a lot of Irish independent cinema, especially if they're going to be set during that period of time. And this one doesn't. This one leaves you feeling like the world is going to be good for these people because they're good people. And it left a really indelible mark. I thought it's such a beautiful film, to the fact that I still listen to that soundtrack quite regularly, even though it's one of those films that I've seen a couple of times, but I don't want to watch it too many times and spoil what's special about it. It's like a once every 3 or 4 years kind of a movie. But yeah, Sing Street, absolutely adored it. Beautiful movie, great soundtrack. Stu?
They made great soundtrack. I mean, it's more of a theme, I suppose, from this film, that even as a kid, I was constantly humming to the annoyance of my granddad who I watched it with, and it's. I mean, I'm looking at Ash and thinking, well, if he's not seen Sister Act, will he have seen The Love Bug?
I don't think so.
Herbie.
Oh.
Not Herbie Rides Again. Not that one. The first one. It's just proper childhood thing, silly live action Disney 60s nonsense about a car that's alive and got a mind of its own. And again, a down on his luck race car driver, no real friends, befriends this car with a soul that just happens to be a VW Beetle. And it was always one of them aims. I want one of them later, and now I don't drive anyway. But it was around the time when I could apparently name every car on the road just by looking at it and the name and model and all that kind of thing. And when I was playing Gran Turismo 7 a few weeks ago, when I unlocked a Beetle, I thought, that's getting customised. This is getting turned into Herbie straight away. And yeah, I know it was brought back in that nonsense Herbie Rides Again film, but this is the one that had soul, weirdly enough. And it's just pure 60s family fun. And anything that makes you go, a bit of rusty metal, it gets my vote. And that's why The Love Bug is so high on the list.
It is a good film. For some reason, whenever I think of Herbie, I always picture Bumblebee. I've got them completely mixed up in my head, even though one's obviously animated and the other one isn't. But in my head, Herbie is a yellow beetle, and I don't know quite how I've tripped over and got them mixed up. But no, it's a very good film. Rides Again isn't, though, is it? It's a bit...
Not really.
It's a bit too try-hard, almost. They kind of missed what was good about The Love Bug and just try to ramp up the comedy, and it didn't work to the same degree. I would never have thought of The Love Bug, though. I've got to be honest. It's a film I've only seen a handful of times, but it's a really good shout. Excellent. So I'm guessing, Ash, you don't know The Love Bug in any iteration.
If it's Herbie, I only know. Is it Fully Loaded with Lindsay Lohan?
Of course, I'd forgot about it. I mean, I've not seen that one, but I'd forgot that it was
Michael
released.
Keaton's in it, so that's a bit of a redeeming factor, I suppose.
Yeah, it can't beat a bit of Keaton, to be fair.
It's CG and it looks like it smiles. So no, I'm just not going to bother.
That's fair. Ash, your number 3, please.
Right, I've gone from Calgary to Deepest Darkest Crew. Now I'm going to the fantasy kingdom of Stormhold. Stardust.
Oh yeah.
No one ever thinks of Stardust, but when you say the film Stardust, everyone goes, "Oh yeah."
You know what? I was in the Black Swan last week, and we were sitting there, and they had Magic TV on, and the song, obviously the Take That song from this film came up, and yet again I couldn't remember what the film was called. I think it's Starlink, but no, that's that Switch game with the little
Fox.
Fox's ship, and yeah. And I was thinking about it then, and then because he's got clips from the film, and I need to watch this film again. Then you just forget about it instantly. But yeah, carry on. Wonderful.
That's where Daredevil got his big start as well, and also
yes, it is,
and Superman, because he is the boyfriend of the girl that Charlie Cox is going to get the shooting star for. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a film about a guy who is going to get a shooting star for his girlfriend to show the girl he loves, to show his love for her, and all the hilarity and the action adventure ensues. And obviously the silly bollocks of he falls for the girl who is the shooting star, and it's just a lovely film. It's a Matthew Vaughn film. I love Matthew Vaughn films anyway.
Yeah.
And this is one of his first bigger ones, I think. And then you add in the cast of Robert De Niro hamming it up as a gay pirate. And then all the sons of the king of what's his name? Peter O'Toole? Is he the king? Is he the king of Stormhold?
I believe he is. Yeah.
Yeah. Mark Williams. Mark Williams. Oh, and he's one of the goats. David Williams is one of the princes. Mark Heap, Adam Buxton. It's a lovely cast and just a generally lovely film.
Yeah, completely. I second that. I remember seeing it at the cinema and just absolutely falling in love with this movie. And it was one that I think it did okay, but I don't think it did exceptionally well at the cinema. But I remember it was one that a lot of people loved, but just not enough people saw it. And it was good. I'd completely forgot that it was Charlie Cox was the main guy in it. It feels like it was a lifetime ago. As you say, he's now Daredevil, so yeah, throwing it back, it's a bit weird. Written by Jane Goldman, who also wrote Harry Potter and the Woman in Black, and also was on Kick-Ass with Matthew Vaughn. So I feel like Jane Goldman's a really good screenwriter, and she got that script perfectly. It was so well balanced. Really well. Like, at no point do you feel like it ran away with itself. It was excellent. Another film that I haven't watched for a long time, but I think I need to watch it again because it is super sweet. Yeah. And yeah, I really want to watch it again now. Yeah, brilliant.
It's originally a Neil Gaiman, isn't it? Going back again to David Tennant and Michael Sheen.
Yes. Yeah. I think I met him just after I saw that film. I bumped into him in Edinburgh after seeing Sarah Millican. He was hanging around and he complimented my Batman shirt. Because obviously he wrote Batman and stuff way back when. So that was kind of cool. So yeah, got to have a chat with him. That was awesome. Lovely. Right, okay. So that's my number 2. Oh, Stu, have anything to say on Stardust?
I couldn't help but jump in at. It just makes you smile just thinking about it.
Yeah.
And I can't believe it's as old as it is.
Yeah, what is it? 2007. Yeah,
7.
Yeah.
It was
yeah.
one of the first films I worked when I worked at the cinema. It was one of the first films that came out.
Did you get to like sit in on them when you were working, or did you have to like wait for a day off and then go and sit in on them?
So we got for some of the films we got screenings beforehand before it came out. There's peek behind the curtains. But yeah, you'd get like the staff showings because they needed to test it. This was before digital, when they'd have to clip them all together and build them up. They'd do a test screening, and obviously you could go in and watch them beforehand then. But after digital, it was a bit more protected because they'd have passwords on them, and the keys would only unlock at a certain time. But for a while, we did do over 18 screenings. So it was for like sort of your 12A films, where you could go in as an adult and you wouldn't have screaming kids in it. It was a beautiful idea, but just not enough people did it. And people, your workers would rejoice if you got it, because you'd have to sit in and watch a film and you get paid for it. I had it.
Perfect.
I had it a couple of times, but for one, it was I only got it. The last time I got it was for Avatar, because I just fell asleep. They woke me up. They woke me up at the end of the film in the back corner, just asleep.
Crazy. So I'm just looking at Matthew Vaughn. It was actually it says his third film, but Courage doesn't have a release date. It looks like his first film proper was Layer Cake, which I've got to be honest, I didn't think much of myself. No. I didn't really enjoy that.
When was the last time you watched Layer Cake, though?
I watched it years after. It was probably about 2010, 2012, somewhere in between there. I just didn't like it, if I'm honest.
No, I watched it. I think I bought the DVD as soon as it came out because I'd missed it in the cinema and I thought the same. And then I watched it about 4 or 5 years ago and I liked it a lot more. So it might be another one of them where wrong place, wrong time kind of thing. I'd give it another chance just because it changed my mind on it, because I thought, it's just they had the success with all the Snatch stuff and it's just jumping on the bandwagon a little bit.
Yeah.
But taking it out of that little mind frame, it's better than you remember it. It was for me anyway.
I remember, I'm not really a big fan of Sienna Miller. I don't think she's a very good actor. There's also, because she was with Jude Law at the time, and I don't really like Jude Law either, so that sort of rubbed off a little bit. I remember the whole film, spoiler alert, but he dies at the end of the film because of her. So the moral of the story is don't trust women. And I didn't think that worked as a message to send out on a movie. So I didn't particularly like it. But you are right. Maybe it is just a case of there was a lot of things against it when I watched it. Maybe now with fresher eyes it might work a little bit better. His next movie, though, Vaughn's next movie, Argyle, that sounds decent. Henry Cavill plays the main guy in it. The world's greatest spy, Argyle, gets caught up in a globe-trotting adventure, and Matthew Vaughn has said it's going to be like his ode to 80s action movies like Die Hard and Lethal Weapon.
Yes.
So I'm well up for that. That sounds, next year, that should be fun. I'll give that one a watch for sure. Right, number 2. I've noticed there's a bit of a theme going on here, especially between me and you anyway, Stu. There's a bit of a musical theme going on with quite a lot of our picks. And this is the first proper out-and-out musical on my list. And it's 1986's Little Shop of Horrors. I absolutely adore this film. I don't know if this was the first musical film that I saw, but it was definitely the first musical film that I properly fell in love with. And it's the story of Seymour Krelboyne, how he lives in the basement of the man who pretty much adopted him when he was a kid, Mr. Mushnick, who runs a florist in downtown New York, where everything going wrong for Seymour and his life's terrible, until one day he comes across a man-eating plant who he helps to grow to this ginormous beast of a plant. And he gets everything that he wants. He manages to get the girl and he can go away and become a famous person. But obviously, it's never going to go that way because the alien plant wants to take over the world. And it's all about how, the last song is The Meek Shall Inherit. It is all very much about how the underdog can win out at the end of it. Now, there's two different versions of this film. There's the happy ending and there's the not so happy ending. But the happy ending just makes me so delighted at the end of it when you get the geek winning and you get the woman who has been downtrodden and beaten by her dentist boyfriend. She wins, and it's all the good people get what they deserve and all the bad people get what they deserve too. It's so beautiful. The music is fantastic. I was listening to the soundtrack in the car earlier. Like, I absolutely adore it. I went to see on Broadway. I've seen it at the Grand Theatre in Wolverhampton. I love it. All incarnations of it. I think I need to get a tattoo of Audrey too. Like, it's genuinely one of my all-time favourite films. And it just makes me happy all the time. I watch it, I'd say at least 3 times a year as well.
What?
Seriously, like this is probably my all-time top 5. I absolutely love this movie, and yeah, the not so happy ending is still good, and it's true to the theatrical version. But the version they released in the cinema, the happy ending, that's the ending for me, I think, when it comes to it. So yeah, Little Shop of Horrors is my number 2. Beautiful. Plus, it's Rick Moranis. Like, how can you not love a Rick Moranis film?
It's been. I remember watching it and not liking it at all. It's been such a long time now. It's on the pad. Just out of curiosity, if you could watch something 3 times a year every year, then it's even if it's the weirdest indie nonsense ever, then I'll give it a chance. But for something like that I have seen before and didn't like, maybe I'll change my mind on it, because it has happened before when we've done things like this and I've watched something. I mean, it's not going to happen with Picture Show, Picture House, whatever that thing is.
Never.
And it's never happened with Next either. But for something like this, then maybe.
Yeah, I think you might, because it's fun and, like, yeah, I think you might like it. Like, compared to the original non-musical version, like, that's one of the worst films ever. It was awful. But yeah, the remake was tremendous. Ash, have you seen Little Shop?
I haven't, but I'm just looking at it. I'm looking at it now, and it's not just Rick Moranis. You've got Steve Martin's in it. John Candy's in it.
Yeah, Christopher Guest as well.
Yeah, Bill Murray.
Frank Oz directed it.
Howard Ashman wrote the screenplay.
Yeah, Alan Menken did the theatrical, the music and everything.
Yeah.
So when you go to New York, I would thoroughly recommend going. The theatre that it's on at, it looks like it's basically an old-fashioned school, like something you'd see in Little House on the Prairie. Okay. And they've got all plants around the school as well, which are obviously like the monstrous plants. So
yeah,
if you've got a free evening, it's on the west side of Manhattan.
Yeah,
go and see it. It's brilliant. Okay. Stu, you're number 2.
I'm talking about horrors. I mean, this. I was thinking about this earlier. If this came out now, how long would it last before the backlash began? You see, if you break it down, you are talking about someone who's had his parental rights taken away from them, and he then decides to be transgender for a bit to get to see his own kid. It's a bit problematic in modern eyes. But Mrs. Doubtfire is piss funny. I don't care. Any of that bollocks. Well, literally. It's hilarious. And it continues to be and always will be hilarious because Robbie Williams is a genius. So I don't care. Any of that, the woke stuff, forget it. This film will forever be great. And I think it was also the fact that I heard someone say Stuart the other way because she says Stuart. And I thought, what the hell is this? What is going on here? Mainly because it's Pierce Brosnan as well.
Yeah.
being portrayed as the villain when he's done nothing wrong. Yeah, just early 90s hilarity at the expense of cross-dressing and old people. But it's great. And I haven't seen it for such a long time that every time someone mentions it or I see a picture of it or Strangely, you don't get memes of this film, which is probably understandable, I suppose, in the modern world. But
the only one I see is, when he's put his face in the meringue and he pops his head up, hello! That's the only one I ever see on Twitter now, is that one.
But again, it's one of them, it's unfortunately, you're not going to see it on telly anymore. But it makes you smile. And the fact that it's about a dad who'll go to extreme lengths to see his kid, which at the end of the day is what the whole the superhero movement thing that we had a few years ago came to, but in a humorous way. And Mrs. Doubtfire is a funny film. Yeah, it's of its time, but that time was a better time than now. So fuck you all. Go and watch Mrs. Doubtfire.
I mean, what was that? Probably 95? Something like that. Yeah. Ash, Mrs. Doubtfire, have you seen that one?
Yeah, you can't not see Mrs. Doubtfire. Anything with Robin Williams is perfect. Have you seen the horror trailer for Mrs. Doubtfire? Now that is...
Yeah. That is great. 93. I've just looked on IMDb. 93. Good God. I remember this was one of the first films I saw, like, without my parents taking me to the cinema. When I was 10 years old, like we went from school, like a couple of us went from school. I remember hating it when I saw it at the cinema. And then when I saw it like a year or two later at home, I was like, I don't understand why I hated it, because this film is hilarious. And it genuinely was brilliant. I mean, I'm such a big fan of Robin Williams. He was, as you said, Stu, there is just something about him on a screen that automatically makes you happy in pretty much everything that he does, even when it's not a particularly happy movie, like Insomnia, for example. That's a very different kind of role for Robin Williams, but when he's doing his like Death to Smoochie and stuff like that, it's so much fun. He manages to just encapsulate that element of cinema, and there aren't many like him since or before. I feel like the world of cinema is much worse off without him in it. So yeah, great choice that one is. Ash, your number 2, please.
Right, I have to be careful and I have to make sure afterwards that we premise what film this is, because it could be one of two. We're going to 100 Acre Wood. Christopher Robin has grown up. He's left them, but no, they don't go on a killing spree. It's not Blood and Honey. It's Christopher Robin the film. In 2018, Ewan McGregor plays grown-up Christopher Robin, who is beaten down, worn down. He's fed up of his life. And then we see tattered old Pooh Bear looking for his friend. And he ventures out into the world to go and find his friend. Just at the same time, he finds Christopher Robin. It just turns into a Winnie the Pooh storyline that's just wonderful. If you enjoyed those characters growing up, this will just warm your heart as an adult. Seeing all the old guys in their older tattered forms, especially with some of the voices that you get with it. Peter Capaldi as Owl, I think he is. And also Nick Mohammed, who is obviously Nate Shelley in Ted Lasso. He's Piglet.
Yeah, great casting.
Yeah. But yeah, even with Brad Garrett as Eeyore, he's a good voice. He's a brilliant voice for the depressed donkey. God bless him. It's a beautiful movie, and you go all the way through it, and you just it's worthy of saying about 50 odd times during that. Yeah, Christopher Robin.
Amazing. Now, I haven't seen this one, but I have seen Blood and Honey. That was fun, but not in the way that you want it to be fun. Stu, have you seen this one?
No, I had no interest in it whatsoever until now. It sounds really nice.
Yeah,
and it's kind of chilled out, kind of almost autumnal era. It sounds like something you'd kind of watch just as the leaves are changing to golden brown. So,
yeah, it does. Yeah,
enjoyable.
I'm with you on that one.
Yeah,
yeah.
He's got Hayley Atwell plays his wife. So
you should have just led with that.
Yeah. You're talking to someone who went last week to Manchester to watch Winnie the Pooh live. It's sort of like in a thought, like if you've seen Warhorse on show, it's like that, but just with Winnie the Pooh. It was actually a sweet little hour or so. So
like Winnie the Pooh's got no place in my childhood, really. Like, I don't remember watching any of the films or TV series. It's not something I've got any nostalgia for at all, to be honest, which is probably why I don't think I ever saw that film. But I am kind of intrigued now, and people have spoke about the series, the original books and stuff, and they do sound quite amazing. But they're just there's a bit of a black hole for me when it comes to that particular IP. Stu, have you got much of interaction with the Pooh world?
Well, after recording last night, I have. A sensible red tikka, that was it was too bad. I think I've mentioned it before. I had like Disney wallpaper, and then I had one that was like one was DuckTales, and then a little corner was things like Winnie the Pooh, and there was a few other things, like there was Rupert Bear as well. It was a very bear related corner. Again, not that kind. But I was more Rupert and them kind of tales than Winnie the Pooh. I don't know what it was. Maybe it's because maybe that with the in between times where it was before us and then after us it came back again. But I did have a lot of the little books as well as a kid. But again, my brother and sister never did, so it kind of died off with me being that young because they never carried it on. So yeah, maybe we just maybe there's kind of a weird time dilation thing here, where in the space of like the 10-year circle that we were just caught in the middle of it and we never experienced it properly. But yeah, I mean, how Ash has pitched this film now, it sounds like Paddington 3.
It does, yeah. Sounds perfect, doesn't it? Right, a couple of honourable mentions. Black Mirror, Hang the DJ. If you haven't seen Black Mirror, I don't know what you're doing with your life. It is absolutely tremendous TV from start to finish. I would say 90% of the episodes do not leave you feeling warm and happy, but Hang the DJ and San Junipero certainly did. But yeah, Hang the DJ is the one that really stands out for me. I feel like that's the one which is the more sci-fi-ish of the two. The other one's a little bit sweeter. But yeah, so Hang the DJ is the one that I really like. All-Star Superman, I think, is one of the most hopeful comic books ever written. And it was Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely, a Scottish pair, writing Superman. Superman gets irradiated with the sun, which means he only has a year left to live. And it's all about him leaving the world in a better place. So it's all about his legacy. And it is such a hopeful and happy one. Even though it's about the end of life, it still talks about the future and leaves you wanting to see a better world. So yeah, excellent. And then I've got two films that I'm pairing together. Funny Girl and Lady Bird. Neither of those are particularly happy films throughout, but they both end on a hopeful note. So Funny Girl, she goes through a divorce. Her husband's a scumbag, to be perfectly honest. He's a gambling addict who has left them in a position where they might fuck up their future. But she leaves him at the end and life is, she's starting again, basically. And Lady Bird is a case of where she butts head with her mother and there's a lot of tension there. But again, when she goes away, life opens up for her and the world, there's possibilities of a better future. So it's a rougher ride, but the ending is quite positive. So I quite like both of those. And the other two that I'm bandying together, the only reason they've not made this list is because I feel like they're too recent and I don't know if I will feel this way in 2 or 3 years time. But both Barbie and Guardians 3 both left me feeling very, very happy at the end of it. Don't get me wrong, with Guardians, I ugly cried, I happy cried, I everything in between cried. It was just wonderful. It was such a great film. And I feel like that if any comic book film is going to make me put it on this list, that's probably the closest one to it, I think. And Barbie also, again, it was good for everybody, not just, there's been so much talk about it being anti-men, and it's not. like a lot of that film, I mean, being Kenuff is a thing, and people wanting to be more Ken. So it's not just for women; it is for men as well, and it's about having a better mental health outlook on life. And I think any film that does that, I think, should be applauded. But the only reason that they've not made the list, it's just too recent. It might be that they drop off in a year or two's time, but they would probably be in contention anyway. Stu, any honorable mentions?
I think that with Barbie, I think the fact that you had the anti-men brigade and then the anti-woke brigade all having a go at it all, and then you got the people who are on the other side who are for everything and the anti-turf stuff. They're all having a go at each other, and then us normal people who just went and had a laugh, enjoyed it, just sitting back watching them fight it out, because it probably is the epitome of this list of everything put together, but I don't think it kind of fits just because it's slight. With a lot of these, I think kids could probably still watch the vast majority of them. Obviously, kids did go and see Barbie, but it's not for them, and I don't think they'll get as much out of it as near 40-year-old plus 40-year-old men did. And I think if you get the joke, it's way better than it seems at first. But it seems there's so many people who didn't get the joke. We're like, okay, are we some kind of special breed or something? Yeah, Matthew, you're not here. You're listening to this. You're part of the problem. And he didn't. I don't know why he didn't like it, but he didn't like Glee either. I mean, Glee was one of mine that, if you wanted a series to be happy constantly about it, other than the quarterback, obviously, R.I.P.
Yeah.
Glee is just perfect from start to finish.
Yeah, love it.
And so is Ted Lasso, as previously mentioned a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, mine. I mean, I had All Dogs Go to Heaven and The Land Before Time, but on mine. But they both have quite sad moments as well, in a kind of Guardians 3 way. And Forrest Gump was there to wind you up a little bit. But in a kind of quirk, I thought, well, just out of curiosity, I'll try and get a female point of view of this. So I asked the wife what she thought. And her 5-1 was Jungle Book, Jumanji, Hocus Pocus, Wizard of Oz, and Mary Poppins.
It's a good list.
That's not a bad list.
I wouldn't argue with that at all. I mean, Hocus Pocus does seem to be a very, I think most women I know love Hocus Pocus.
Yeah, and Goldie.
Yeah, obviously. Excellent. Ash, have you got any honourable mentions already that Mel would point out? I'm guessing The Little Mermaid.
Oh, Little Mermaid came. When the question got asked, Little Mermaid did come up straight away. That was the first answer.
The new one.
Both versions were said, but that wouldn't have been accepted. Princess and the Frog. That's a feel good film though. That one's off. But I love Tiana. I had Ted Lasso. As a TV show. I have Shrinking as well. Was it Shrinking?
Yes, I love Shrinking.
I think that's a feel good show. Obviously, I know it's dealing with the death of his wife, but it's him coming back to normality. I think pretty much every episode, near enough, I came out of that smiling. I had Guardians 3, and I also had, but I appreciate that this is for nerds and for kids, probably Matt as well. For kids of my sort of era, the latest season of Pokemon, when Ash finally wins the world championship, I'm not ashamed to say that when it's in the final battle, and then Andy, just hold your ears. You won't know anything anyway. When Pikachu gets knocked down and he has a flashback scene, and all of Ash's old companions and all of his little teams come together to G up Pikachu in a cutscene, and then he gets up and the original theme song starts playing. Oh. I'm unashamed to say I cried, like ugly tears. I could not speak for 20 minutes. Literally, I was crying as he won, and that music was playing. So yeah, that was a feel good. That was an R. But that was probably her saying "ah" because I looked like an absolute mess.
I've just sent you a text message, Ash, of my reaction, and
I know what it is. I don't need to see it. I know exactly what it is.
So every time Ash mentions Pokemon, my response is the Kristen Bell just shrugging because I have no idea what he's talking about. Excellent. Right then, so our number one, the happiest, most heartwarming film of all on my list. And I think this is as close to perfect as any film has gotten. And it's School of Rock.
Oh,
I mean, it's perfection, this film. I absolutely adore this movie. I mean, like I said, there is this theme of musicals going through it. There is something about bringing music into a film that adds emotion to it. And it certainly does with this. That final scene where everything comes together, where the parents are finally accepted that their kids aren't just going to be what they wanted to be, that they're going to be their own people, that they're coming together to play this rock song all together in an auditorium with this random man who's not even really their teacher. He's just sort of kidnapped their class, but they accept what's happening. And that scene, that final scene, I think is just incredible. I absolutely adore that movie. From start to finish, it's great. There's a time where Jack Black was like the hottest shit in the world, and I think this was the pinnacle of it. He could do no wrong at this point. He was excellent. I feel like he had a little bit of a dip afterwards, and now everyone kind of loves him again. There was almost like a little bit too much Jack Black for a period of time, and I don't think he was as popular. Maybe around the King Kong film, I think people started to think, okay, do we actually like him? But if you've ever liked Jack Black, this is the Jack Black you like, because it's the most Jack Black he has ever been in any film. And it just works perfectly, from being this down and out loser who just wants a chance at redemption almost, to taking his friend's job at a school without him knowing, befriending Arquette. No, it's not Patricia Arquette, is it? I can't remember who the teacher is, who he becomes friends with, who's the headmistress at the school. Just everything works out really well in the end of this movie, and it really shouldn't, because as I said, he has effectively kidnapped a group of children. But it's just such a happy-go-lucky film, and there aren't many like it, where again, I think that you could watch it as a youngster, you could watch it as an adult, and you will still get exactly the same out of it. I don't think it's one which is pitched at one particular age group. The comedy is for everybody, and it's excellent. It's excellent. That's all I can say about this film. It's just an excellent, excellent movie. Stu?
Yeah. It was similar kind of thing with Nativity as well. That kind of adults and kids relationship kind of thing. Well, I threw my pen down because that was one of the ones that I kind of brainstormed, and I just threw films at it, and before I tried to organise it properly, and then I deleted it completely off there. We wouldn't have got Peaches without this, would we? So for that, it needs to live on. Yeah, yeah. I can't argue with it. It's wonderful. It's just what it kind of, in a musical way. You are right. It ticks every box that you possibly could get, and any age could watch it as well.
Absolutely. Oh, and just to say, the new Tenacious D song's really good fun as well. I don't play video games. It's a really good fun film, and the video's great as well. So check that out on YouTube. Loved it. Ash, have you seen? I presume you'd have seen it. Obviously.
Yeah, everyone's seen School of Rock. But yeah, whenever I see School of Rock, it always makes me think of the Nativities, and especially Freaks, David Tennant's that one. But yeah, it's literally just a heartwarming movie. Beautiful film.
Yeah, wonderful. What's your number one, please, Joe?
No, this was the one that I mentioned earlier. This jumped out straight away. I knew this was my number one. I mean, I love this film for multiple reasons. Again, it's one where I watched my granddad. Another one I'm guessing Ash has never seen before we even mention it. And I looked on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's got a 67 and a 64, which is an absolute disgrace. And it is batteries not included, which the blank look says it all. But basically, you look at the premise on IMDb, and it says, "Oh, I need to turn itself off." Aliens help a feisty old New York couple in their battle against ruthless land developers, which sounds shit. But the aliens are like cute little drones. They're like flying little Alexas. But they've all got their own little personalities, and you somehow start like feeling things for these little mechanical aliens, and it doesn't make any sense. But then you've got a lot of old people who are all at the start of it, a bit like Cocoon, where they're all depressed and all, oh, it's all the end of the world, and they're sitting there in their little tiny house, and we're not going to sell up like that house in Japan in the middle of the motorway that I just built around. And he said, well, what do they do? How do the battle when their house is falling apart anyway? And then these aliens just come and I don't know why I love this film so much, because on the premise of it, it sounds awful. It's probably not great, and I haven't seen it for a while, but as soon as it came on Disney Plus, I watched it straight away. And that was, a couple of years ago? I hadn't seen it for 10 years before that, at least. I just love it. I think it's really, really sweet. And it's got, like, you look at old people like that, it reminds you of your grandparents a little bit. I suppose there's a bit of nostalgia in there for me as well. But I always wanted one as well. I always wanted one of the little the little aliens. Everyone wanted a bit of, like, where is he? Certain little spherical Star Wars droids. Everyone wanted one of them after Force Awakens.
Yeah, BB-8.
Yeah, no one did. No one's actually spent the money. But in a similar kind of vibe, how BB-8's got some kind of personality about him, despite him being a literal ball with a thing on the top. So are these creatures in this. And it's just wonderfully well made. And again, 80s, not modern at all.
No.
And something that seems lost to time, because you mentioned this to almost everyone and no one's heard of it.
No.
It used to be on telly it used to be on telly quite a lot back in the late 90s. And then it vanished into thin air. Why? It's just a really, really nice, wonderful film, and more people should know about it.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I'm just looking at it now. I don't think I've seen it since I saw it at the cinema. It was released in 87. We would probably have got it in probably about 88, 89, something like that, because there was always that bit more of a break, wasn't there, way back when. We're just looking at it. James Horner did the music, which kind of shocked me, because this felt like it was very much a cheesy throwaway kind of a film. But James Horner has won 2 Oscars. He won the Oscar for Titanic and for Avatar. He did the music on Willow, The Rocketeer, Aliens, Field of Dreams. Like, he's a really top tier musical composer, which I didn't realise that he passed away in 2015. The box office was $65 million against a budget of $25 million, which for late 80s is absolutely astounding. I'm kind of amazed we never got a sequel to that film.
Or a remake.
Well, yeah, but we had those cutesy little droids, which, as you say, everyone would have wanted one. If they'd have made a sequel, they'd have made an absolute shitload on merchandise. So I feel like they missed the trick by not revisiting, because it was a very sweet film. But when you look at the still images of it, it's weird as anything, because all the cast are like octogenarians. Why on earth would I be watching that? But I remember really loving it as a kid. And again, it's another film that I've almost got mixed up with Mac and Me for some reason in my mind. Like, I always have to double check to see which movie it is that's being discussed. But yeah, great film. Really, really happy film. Super. Ash, your number 1, please.
I went to the godfather of British rom-coms for this, Richard Curtis, and is probably his last one. It's About Time. I absolutely adore this movie. It's probably my favourite movie ever. It's literally just a guy learns that in his family the males can time travel, and he doesn't spend it doing silly bollocks or anything like that. He literally can he goes back in time, and he just wants to find love. And it's the story of how Domhnall Gleeson finds Rachel McAdams, fucks it up, goes back in time, tries to fix it. I think he fucks it up again, goes back to fix it. and it's just the story of how a man, just a normal guy who lives in London, basically tries to make his life perfect through different problems, and then figuring out that the butterfly effect of you do something in the past and it fixes your future, and then the way different things run around, and it's just so down to earth, and there's no silly bollocks with it being a time travel film. Unlike, is it Time Traveler's Wife? I think that was the Eric Bana one, which was Rachel McAdams as well, I think.
Yes, I think it is.
But this is a lovely film. It makes me cry every single time. I love this movie so much.
It is very sweet, and it's also, the soundtrack is from Ben Folds, The Luckiest, which I think is one of the most beautiful songs ever written. Yeah. It's absolutely wonderful. It's a great film. I've read The Time Traveler's Wife, and the film is such a letdown because the book is incredible. And I cried at the book. It was so moving. But the film, I was just happy it ended because it was terrible. But yeah, I really enjoyed About Time as well. Is it Bill Nighy? Was it Bill Nighy who was in it, who played his old man?
Yeah, Bill Nighy's the dad. And also, quite funnily, Margot Robbie, it's her first film.
Oh wow! Okay,
she's the first girl that he falls for, and he tries to sort of woo her and do the right things and end up with her, and he soon realizes that nothing that he can do is good enough, and she's just like this massive cock tease all the way through. And then I think straight after that, she was getting a thing out in Wolf of Wall Street.
Oh wow! I think I saw it before Wolf of Wall Street, so I didn't know who Margot Robbie was back then. I feel like I want to watch it again now because it's been so long since I've seen that film. But it's very, very sweet, wonderful. Stu, do you know About Time?
Never even heard about it before. I remember the other one and everyone panning it, but not this one. No, it sounds intriguing. I'll give it. Yeah. All these have got a time. All these feel to me like I said, the autumnal thing where you're just starting to put your hoodie on properly, and you're sitting there, and there's a bit of a chill, and there's a bit of coffee going on, and not just normal Andy coffee that he drinks like 5 times a day. Maybe the start of winter as well, a bit of mulled wine. But yeah, I'm going to watch this bit. On this real girl thing, Mary Poppins 2, the bear, we could talk about the bear. Put the bear in as well.
You need to watch The Bear season 2. Yeah, you need to catch up on that.
Yeah, everything that's been mentioned. Everything that's been mentioned here, I'll be watching, and It's About Time is one of them. And a nice surprise to something I've never heard of that I should have done.
Mm.
Honestly, if you watch Time Traveler's Wife and then you watch that, it's an absolute. It's a masterpiece. It's 5 out of 5 at the Tokyo Dome. It's superb.
I mean, it's a 7.8 on IMDb, so like it's got a good score for a film on IMDb. It's well worth it. If you wanted to read Time Traveler's Wife, I would recommend reading it because it is a good book, but I would not recommend watching it. I don't know about the TV series because I didn't give that any time because I didn't want to risk it being shit and investing 12 hours of my life in it. So yeah, I didn't bother with that one. Yeah. But yeah, wonderful. But it does, as you say, it avoids the trick with time travel because you often find time travel films end up far too convoluted, and this doesn't. It plays it with quite a straight bat for a change, and it works perfectly because of that. So yeah, great film.
And there's almost a hope that we get some kind of time travel in the Marvel so that they completely erase Secret Invasion from everywhere.
I mean, I've not watched it, so I'm out of this conversation, but I know both of you have seen it.
that last episode was something different.
We've apologised for enough, and I kind of enjoyed it to start with. I thought, this has got promise, and then it went bad, and then 5, I thought, okay, there's something in it here, and then that episode, and then the headlines of the worst thing in the MCU ever, when Eternals exists, I'm going to agree with it. It was so bad.
Wow.
It stunk. It was so stunk. And the fact that Kevin Feige came out and said, I wanted that fight. Oh, you silly bastard. You put your name on that fucking thing. You idiot.
No,
Well,
I've not.
there's the discussion now about Rhodey, isn't there? And when he was taken, and when they're saying, oh, when did they say? Was it after Civil War?
Yeah, so he doesn't know Tony's dead.
Oh, fucking Jesus Christ. Piss off.
Yeah, I'm not glad I've not watched it, and
I kind of want you to watch it just for that last episode because I know you'll hate it, and that reaction will be superb.
No, I'm not going to put my. I mean, how many episodes we talking about?
6.
And like what, an hour or 45 each?
No, they're not.
Half hour.
I can't do it.
Olivia Colman kind of makes it worth it for most of it.
I can't.
She is deliberately hamming it up as well.
Yeah.
You know, she's taking the piss from the scenes that she's in. But yeah, they're between 30 and 40 minutes long-ish. I think the first one's a bit longer because obviously it's the first one. But yeah, you can do it in a night if you put your mind to it. It'll be funny. The people demand it.
It'll tickle you more as well. The fact that the heel in it is a Ken.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I just don't know if I can do it. There's so much stuff I want to watch. I don't want to start hate watching stuff for the sake of it, just to make you pricks laugh. I just don't think it's.
Yeah, but you've got to enable our toxic things.
Yeah.
I know, but I've done it every fucking time. Like I did it with Ms. Marvel.
So do it again.
Like, I don't want to do it.
We know that. So Matt's completely out of it now. He's given up. But we can't bend him now. We can't bend him to our law. You need Dave. I presume Dave's watching. Dave hasn't even spoke about it. It's traumatizing that much.
Yeah, he hasn't mentioned it to me, so I don't know. I'm not going to watch it. I've got other stuff I need to. I've got stuff I want to watch first.
But you need to watch it in a kind of that you don't need to watch it, but you really need to watch it before Marvels, which you said that you are going to watch. So it's about three and a half. Just under 4 hours of your time. You can do it in a night. Why not?
Will it have any impact on the Marvels?
I think,
Might do.
there's a significant thing in there that it will have an actual effect on.
I just don't know if I care enough. Like most of the Marvel films that they've got penciled in just don't interest me at all. So I could quite easily leave it.
But this is why, because we know that you don't care, we know that you don't want to watch it, and we're just waiting for you to go insane on Twitter. Oh, X, sorry.
Yeah, that's right. I just don't think I can bring myself to do it. Oh, we'll see.
Twitter poll.
I've got 2 episodes of The Bear to finish off first, so we'll see once that's done whether or not I can be asked to fit it in. Oh, fuck you now. But yeah, you need to watch The Bear anyway, Stu. Season 2's been fantastic.
No, well,
8 of the 10, and it's top tier.
I would have watched it last week if I wasn't away. I just didn't want to watch it on a smaller telly because I watched them all properly in bigger vision, so to speak, and I really enjoyed it. But see, we've got Matt in to watch Yellow Jackets now. He's raving about that in the old GC. So
yeah, he is. Yeah.
Not Jimmy Collins group chat. But being inside Gemma Collins is potentially better than Secret Invasion. Let's just put it that
way. Fucking hell. Yeah, but no, I'm not watching Secret Invasion. No, I'm busy. Got stuff to do. I mean, like, that's the one thing that I have done on something. I've just been putting it up to like 1.5 or 2.0 speed and just powering through some stuff that I'm not asked about watching, but I feel like I need to. So there's been a couple of shows that I've just powered through to get to the end of. So, I mean, that's always possible. Because at least then I could watch it in maybe an hour and 20. That's something, I suppose. So we'll see. We'll see about that. Right. Next week, I've pulled an audible, and rather than doing the film I was going to originally say for us to do, I think we should do Nick Cage's latest film, which has just been released on video on demand. I watched it last night, and it's something like, yeah, it's proper like B movie fodder, but it's called Sympathy for the Devil. You've probably seen the trailers if you follow us on Twitter. There's every chance you've stumbled across it because it is the kind of nonsense we talk about fairly regularly. Starring beloved Nick and also Joel Kinnaman from the Suicide Squad, Rick Flag. IMDb describes the film as, after being forced to drive a mysterious passenger at gunpoint, a man finds himself in a high-stakes game of cat and mouse, where it becomes clear that not everything is as it seems. It kind of gave me low-rent vibes of A History of Violence, which is a film I really, really like. So I did enjoy this movie. Bit of a spoiler alert for next week's episode. But I'll be intrigued to see what everyone else thinks about this one. If you've seen it, get in contact with us on the Twitter or any of the socials at Cage Fighting Pod. Please make sure you're subscribed on whatever podcatcher that you listen to us on as well. And please leave us a review, and we will love you forever. Thank you very much for joining us this week. We truly appreciate your time. Get in contact and let us know what are some of your happy moments in films. I'd love to know what other people makes them happy when they're watching movies. For this week, Ashley, would you like to say goodbye?
Oh, don't say Ashley. No, only my mother says Ashley. No. Yeah, cheers, guys. Have a good one.
Stuart, would you like to say goodbye?
That Ashley Madison documentary looks interesting on Disney Plus. So,
I don't think I've seen that one. My job's so far out of Disney Plus.
I presume it's about the scandal and when all the data got leaked. I presume that's what it's about.
Okay.
So I just saw Ashley Madison. I thought, oh, that's something I ain't seen for a while. Not that I ever use the service. Let's just get that out there right there. But all these kind of expose documentaries, I've got proper like balls deep in them all. And they do tickle an itch, so to speak. But yeah, if that's what I think it is, then I'm going to enjoy that. Yeah. So nice films and requests for Andy to watch Secret Invasion, please. Goodbye.
It's goodbye from me, and remember, be excellent to each other.